Hey everyone, it's another sunny Tuesday, and I am so excited that you are here on the Get to Know Her show. And today you are going to be meeting Dr. Tiffany Hunt. This is going to be fantastic. Tiffany is a registered psychologist practicing in clinical and health psychology. She is also a published author, and she does sessions called sounding sessions called Tuned In With Tiffany, which I have attended, and they are absolutely amazing. So I've got lots and lots of questions for Tiffany today. I'm going to bring her on right now, and you're going to get to know Dr. Tiffany Hunt.
Hey,
Hello, beautiful lady. How are ya?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you, and I see you've got your jewels on.
Oh, of course.
I
I've
They
got all
look
my glam jewels.
fabulous. They look fabulous. You know what I have to share right off the hop with everybody, Tiffany, is I had the pleasure of attending one of your sounding sessions in Grimsby at that yoga studio. So it was before COVID. So I actually got to be in this whole
Experience it.
vibration with the group. Yeah. And so a couple of things happened. You were so sparkly. You had this beautiful sparkly dress on, and you were just vibing this amazing energy. And then you kind of do these things where you work the room. And then I saw you decked in my jewels. Everything was sparkling. And I was like, oh my God, this is such an
Of
honor. I
course,
get to be
right?
part of this energy. Yeah. So thank you for that. You're an incredible person. Wow. You're doing a lot of things. And you know what? My first question to you today is, I know you are an empath.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered if you were born that way, or you believe people are born that way. And is this what led you to do what it is that you're doing today for
For
your
sure.
life's mission?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I think definitely, I think I was born an empath. I was always, right, like a bit of a sensitive kid growing up too. Right, and definitely started some of the helper stuff, right, like early on. I think that's kind of been my role in my friend group, right? It's just naturally, right, like the helper, the therapist.
Yeah.
But yeah, always really drawn, right, like to nature, really drawn to animals, right, and just helping others and giving back. So I think it was kind of meant to be. Right, I'm not surprised that I ended up in this line of work at all.
Oh, that's amazing. And I love how you don't do things in a traditional way. You're really all about the mind, the body, and the spirit.
For
It's
sure.
so in your practice, do you really follow those three things, or is it sort of like an individual thing? If somebody's coming to you for therapy, where they will say, I'm a very spiritual person, or perhaps maybe they're not spiritual, so
Sure.
you would focus on something
Yep.
else. Yeah. So you
Yeah,
take the
definitely.
lead.
Yeah, no, when people come in and meet me, I'm pretty upfront that I'm an integrative practitioner. I do work more from the mind, body, spirit approach or biopsychosocial model. So I definitely put that out to people. However, while I'm integrative, I do also try to tailor treatment towards individual needs. So, if people really want to focus more, right, like on the cognitive aspect of things, I'm happy to go that route. But if you're looking for more of an integration or just exposure, right, to a couple of different techniques and styles, then, I'm happy to kind of integrate, right, the different modalities into treatment for sure.
Wow, that's and you were telling me you're doing a lot of work now with first responders, specifically around
Yeah,
trauma.
yeah. So I would say probably like 90% of my caseload now, yeah, it's first respond combination, right? Like first responders. So I get the full mix, right? Like fire, police, paramedics, dispatchers, and then I'm working with veterans as well. So mostly, like most of the times, right? Like the focus is around trauma work. So again, because of that, it's also really important, I feel, to do an integrative approach. right, to treatment, because it's not one model, right, like fits every person. So I think that's what's, a little bit different about me as well, is that I'm pretty open. So I'm really, at the end of the day, about finding something that works for that particular individual.
That's great. And you were working with first responders before COVID, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think you were also giving back in the community and doing that as a give back, correct?
Yeah, that was, and that's what's really interesting too, is there's a little bit more research coming out now just on more of the, right, like the relaxation component, right, like of sound, and helping more from that mindfulness approach, right, like around meditation and just the calming benefits of it. What's really neat is, again, there's more research coming out that's, more trauma specific, and also for anxiety and depression. So what I had done as part of my certification in sound therapy is we had to develop a capstone. So mine was to, again, help the helpers and honor them by, doing a free sound bath for veterans and first responders. So I offered that back in December, but it was just a nice way, right, like to express gratitude and to give back to all those helpers out there as well.
Wow, and so what got you into the sound therapy? Was it something that you'd always known about, or is this something new? And also, we got to talk about the colors that you work with your crystal bowls.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, well, obviously I'm drawn to color. So I think part of it was, I feel like, right, like, again, we're all kind of on our own life journeys and healing journeys. And again, what kind of fits at one point in your life maybe doesn't necessarily resonate, any longer. And, I'm a big proponent of mindfulness approaches and principles. And, I really enjoy like yoga, again, spending time in nature. But I was finding it, again, harder to meditate. So I was looking just to try something a bit new and different. And someone had mentioned in passing, have you ever just tried vibrational sound therapy? So I found a local practitioner and I checked it out. And as soon as I went, I was hooked. I was like, I want to learn more about this. I couldn't believe just how, again, relaxing and soothing and calming, right, like the different sounds were. And funny enough, I started doing research, and I found a place locally where they do sell, right, like a variety of crystal singing bowls, drums, right, like various healing instruments. And it was just one of those things, right? Like I just knew when I found it, again, it really resonated for me and with me. And I thought, I'm a busy brain person. So if this can help me slow down, it would be awesome to kind of offer this again as a modality, right? Like to some other people as well.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting, and, there's different kind of theories and approaches. When working with the crystal singing bowls, some people will operate from more, right, like of an energy or spiritualistic kind of place, and different colors or different tones are supposed to represent different chakras, right, like and opening up different energy fields. So everyone's a little bit different in terms of the approach they take with that. Honestly, for me, I'm just really drawn to color. So I have like some of the bowls, not only did I like, right, like the tone of the bowl, but I also liked, right, like the colors. So I kind of work intuitively with that. Like if I'm particularly drawn to a certain tone or frequency, then I'll work with that. And when I do my sound baths, that's, again, I like to do, right, like a little bit of a mix so that people can experience the different sounds. Because again, the bowls may resonate and may be calming for one person, but activating for somebody else. So again, that's why I try to do a mix of things to take people, right, like kind of on their own kind of sound journey experience.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I'm a color person too, so it really resonated with me when I did your class, and it triggered a lot of things. I found it really opened up the brain, and I had certain sounds would bring back like some childhood memories, good memories.
Absolutely.
There was something that you used that almost sounded like leaves in
Right.
the like rustling. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
really powerful for me, that
Yeah.
sound.
And actually,
Um,
that's it's funny you mentioned that because again, and I kind of like I was trained a little more left brain, right? Like with the
mhm,
talk therapy, but more, as I've done more trauma work, right? Like it's really important to also integrate some, right? Not just verbal, but some of the
mhm.
nonverbal and some of the physical and somatic components. So it's interesting to see, right? Like the right brain will tap into, again, more emotions, memories, creativity. So it's really fascinating to debrief with people afterwards just to
Yeah.
see, what was brought up, if anything, like emotions, sensations, for each individual. It's really neat to
Yeah.
hear those stories.
Do you find people like what would be something somebody might say to you that they've experienced on a creative level? I'd love to know. Like even for me when
Sorry,
when
was
I
that?
was there. Sorry, did the
Oh,
internet go? Yeah. I'm just
yeah.
wondering what the what the feedback has been like for people on a creative level, because I know for me afterwards, like just being around that color and that sound, like I was inspired to get to my studio and do some work. Like I could see things coming together, that were sort of sitting in the background.
Right. So
Have
I love that you just said that,
Yeah.
because I found like other, right, like intuitive or creative folks, right, like it's really
Mhm.
often, right, like it does, like, and inspire is the key word. There was also a photographer that came out and she reached out to me afterwards and just said, right, like she could not believe, right, like the imagery that was coming to her, and even like, again, ideas and inspiration for some of the work, right, that she wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, and I think too, it's just interesting, right? Because the whole idea is that sound, again, will tap into more right brain, right? Like, again, creativity, emotions. So it's just, again, it's neat to hear. And everyone's experience is different. And each
Hmm.
time, right? Like, you could have more physical sensations or more memories or, right, this idea generation. So yeah, it's kind of fascinating on
It
a
is
few levels.
fascinating. And it feels very
Mhm.
magical. And I have to say, I mean, I know we can't be in person with you right now, but I just love your whole connection to it, Tiffany. Like the room it's transformational. Like you feel like you're in this magical place, and you're so magical. So it's a wonderful
Oh,
experience. And I know that a lot of us now, we've had to do some pivoting in our business. That's the new trending word now. Um, so you've been doing your sound sessions online for people. Are you still doing that? I know
yeah,
you
it's
had
it's
done a
really
couple.
it's tricky because,
Hmm.
like you said, there's a qualitative component, right? Like to actually
Hmm.
physically being in the room and experiencing the sounds. And right, I think if you talk to any sound practitioner, like there's definitely something that's lost in translation, right? Like over the computer, you don't quite get the quality or the experience. So fortunately, with some things kind of gradually opening up, like I've been able to do, obviously, right, like more individual work, like as our work has
Okay.
also opened up and we're seeing more people again, right, I've been able to start some of that up, and hopefully, right, if our numbers stay okay, right, like I'm not sure if we're officially switched to we're allowed, right, like the 5 or 10
Yeah, I know it's
people,
so
but
hard to keep up.
yeah, then we'll be able to do, right, like more of the group sound bath stuff as well.
Hmm.
And I mean, ideally, if we can do enjoy like some of this beautiful weather and do it
Hmm.
outside, like it's also really cool to experience a session outside. Like it's like everything is heightened
Yeah.
with it in nature as well.
Yeah.
So that's, again, hopefully moving forward, I'll be able to do, right, like some of that work outside too.
Yeah. that'll be great.
Mhm.
Also, I wanted to ask you, because you're working with first responders, and obviously you're hearing a lot about what's happening out there in the world. I mean, it's upsetting enough, and especially as a sensitive person,
For sure.
just watching the news can be upsetting. How are you compartmentalizing and managing your own well-being through all of this? Because I can imagine it must be very, very challenging to turn it off. And I'm sure the clients you work with are clients who, you're drawn to each other. They're the
Oh,
right
of
people.
course.
You have a real connection with them, perhaps
Yeah,
spiritually. And
for
I can
sure.
imagine it's got to be hard for you.
Yeah. It,
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's definitely challenging. Having said that, like, I think I would say over the past 2, 3 years and the first responders, like, I've met just some of the nicest people, right, that I've ever encountered. And so when you've got people, right, like, who are willing to work on things and are motivated and just genuinely nice humans, right, like, it's really an honor, right, like, to be part of someone else's journey and to give back. But people, right, like, they're on the front lines and dealing with and seeing and hearing a lot of challenging stuff. Right. And sometimes it's not just that, right? Like, it's the stress of the work environment, and some are more supportive
Yeah.
versus less supportive. So it's kind of that combination. And I definitely find I do right, when you're a caregiver or in healing work, like, it is important, right, like, you do have to take steps to make sure, right, like, you're looking after yourself as well. So definitely, like, there's times I'll just do my bowls for myself. I'm also a jogger. I would like to say runner, but it's a jogger. So I do get out there and do that. And I find, like, again, I've always been drawn, right, like, to nature. So sometimes, right, like, just spending time outside. I'm also an animal person. So I make sure I do bow of the day for my little Shih Tzu. So I change that up every day. Her name's Glitter, by the way.
I love it.
She came with
Of
it.
course,
I
her
didn't
name's
know her.
Glitter.
She came with that name. Yeah, and then I have my cats too, and I find, right, like, that's the kind of stuff that just really kind of helps recenter and ground me. And and every once in a while, right, like, I do, right, like, just take breaks or have some time away from work. And I tend, actually, and I encourage a lot of my clients just to either limit exposure or not watch news, right, like, or be careful how much social media, right, like, content you're reviewing as well. And it's not operating from a place, right, like, of ignorance. It's more like, if you're in a place where you're struggling, sometimes, right, like, it's just watching that you're not saturated, right, like, with a lot of negative energy.
For sure. I had an experience the other week where I was like, I don't want to listen to it anymore. I don't want to see the numbers. I don't want to. It's like this fear that perpetuates itself. Some people are, how the way we're viewing each other, all this stuff. And there's a lot of judging happening now too, which I'm not a fan of. So I thought, this was so funny, but I went to bed. I thought, I need to find a book to read that's going to, like, inspire me. And I saw my husband had bought me recently a Partridge Family book, like, from the 1970s. And it was all about, like, this adventure. And I thought, I'm going to read that. And it has been such great therapy for me just to be reading something that I read as a young girl, where, life was great and I was playing outside all the time, and I have all these wonderful memories, and it's just that opening up that part of your brain.
For sure.
It can be a real treat, to go back there and to spend this time as well. It's almost meditative, I find.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what, too, it's funny, like, I think I go through phases too, where I kind of cycle through, right, like, whether it's bowls or reading or time with animals. So, because I also have times too where I love to read, but I can go
Yeah.
through periods, right? Like where my retention is just not so hot. So,
Yeah.
and I think that's when you have that flexibility, like, okay, like this is a time it's good for reading, or right, maybe I'll do an audiobook, right? Like, or journal or
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's what, but definitely like to go back sometimes and reread things as an adult, right? Like,
Yeah.
or with fresh eyes. Yeah, that's really cool too.
Yeah, it is cool. And the whole gratitude thing. I know you're big on gratitude, and it's funny
Absolutely.
now when I'm walking in nature or just sitting outside, like taking a moment to take it all in, I'm like, "Oh my God, there's a blackbird with a yellow stripe down the." Is that like a new thing? I've never seen a bird like that before. And you
I
wonder, were
know.
those things always there, or are we just now really resonating with our
For sure.
surroundings?
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, is this, I don't know if I'm getting all old lady or what's happening here too, right? But yeah, there's times,
Yeah.
again, just appreciating that, like, wow, that's a really beautiful tree, right? Or taking the time. But I do, half joking, half not, right? Like it is more that mindfulness approach, right? Like taking that time to kind of pause and slow down and be in the moment and just appreciate things, right? And
Yeah.
again, even that concept, right? Like beginner's mind, right? Like seeing things with fresh eyes, giving yourself permission to notice things that maybe you haven't noticed before. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, again, it's a neat experience.
It is. It is. And I relate to you as well. You were talking about having a busy brain,
Mm-hmm.
and my brain, same. It's so busy, and I'm addicted to my work. I love it. I could just
Yeah.
do it
Mm-hmm.
24/7. But when I do take a break and just shut it all down, this past weekend I thought I'm just going to be like enjoying myself out in
Right.
nature more. I'm not going to have the phone near me. I'm going to put it in
Mm-hmm.
another room. And now, having experienced that, I'm like, oh, why don't I do that more often?
More
Like it's almost
often,
like a beat, you beat yourself up for it kind of thing. But
for
then,
sure. Yeah.
it's tough.
Well, yeah, and that's where, right, like it's, yeah, finding different ways again to kind of, it'd be nice if we had the time, right, like to kind of fully, do something restorative or completely replenishing. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's more that negotiation, right? Like I just need to do something to kind of recharge here for a bit. But,
Yeah.
I think that's a self exploration process for a lot of people. Like, what is it that actually, again, resonates with me or helps me kind of reset or recharge a bit?
Yeah,
It's
that's
nice.
right.
I
And
mean, that's the great thing about your work and my work, right? Like, we both love what we do. So, yeah, and that's where boundaries, right? Like, you gotta
I
watch.
know.
You could be working, right? Like all the time too.
uh,
So,
Yeah, and then your husband wants to spend time with you and you're like, "What?"
details, yeah. My kids, whatever.
Yeah, exactly, your kids. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
But
That's great.
actually, that was funny because I haven't done bike riding for a while. So the kids have got
Yeah.
now recruited, right? In bike riding. I was like, oh, where have I been?
Oh, isn't
So much
it
fun.
great?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's so fun. And again, that's like a childhood trigger as well, right? When you get
Totally.
on the bike for the first time of the season, yeah,
Yeah.
don't you remember that feeling of I can now leave my house and I'm
Yeah.
out of here
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're a kid? Oh, so in your therapy, Tiffany, do you also like work a lot with people, like helping them to resolve things with their inner child and teaching them how to soothe themselves and that type of thing as well?
Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
so many of us, and it doesn't matter, right? Like if it's stress, right? Or if it's a
Hmm.
formal, right, diagnosis, like we all have kind of our kid stuff, right? Like that we carry around with us. And, I think it's important to remember, like a lot of us have developed, right, like coping strategies that served us or served a purpose at a certain time, right? Like whether that was
Yeah.
childhood or, right, like later adulthood, work, whatever. Um, so sometimes they become automatic, right? Or life gets busy and you just don't have the opportunity, right? Or the luxury sometimes, right? Of exploring, right? Like how
Yes.
you got to where you are now. So I do think, right? Like that is a key, component of my work for people, again, where that's a good fit for them. But again, nurturing, right, like that inner child and recognizing, right, like when little kid stuff or ego gets activated, understanding what that is, where that's coming from, right, and maybe emotionally, what need isn't being met as well.
For sure. I wanted to share an exercise I did once. I don't know if you've ever done this, but it was to take your dominant hand and ask your inner child a question, and then take the hand that you don't write with. So and you answer like the child. So it's that left brain, right brain thing too, I guess. Or maybe not that, but just
right, like kind of understanding, and again, right, like would force you to kind of slow down, right, like and really attend to what it is, right, that you need to respond with as well.
And to be gentle with ourselves, because I think people are being very hard on themselves right now too. There's we still have our expectations, and we're still used to running in a world that's so fast, and I think perhaps there could be some regret looking back if you didn't just accept what was happening and take the time to be, spend more time with your kids, like do the bike rides, do it, because we really can't control this.
Sure.
So,
yeah, definitely. Like I think, and the funny thing is sometimes, caregivers, right, like they're good at helping other people, but not always for themselves. And so I think, again, connecting with some self-compassion, and then also that the flip of that, right, like empathy and perspective taking, you always got to keep in mind, like everybody has a story, right? Everyone's been through stuff. And so I think, sometimes when you have the choice, right, like of being right versus being kind, right, like choose the kindness route. Right. And again, unless you're really getting into it with people, like you have no idea what's going on in other people's lives either. So, I think it's better to kind of hold off, right? Like on judgment before jumping to conclusions, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's great. You are awesome. Thank you so much for all your time today.
Oh, yeah.
I know you're a busy lady.
And for, right, like helping my personality to come out through my jewelry and accessories. So.
Oh, anytime. And Tiffany, I know you said you had till 2 today, and it's about 5 to 2. Are you good to hop onto a really quick Instagram after party with me?
Of course.
So what I do, I just go live, and then you'll see that Glam Jules is live, and you can just join on, and you can do that easily from your phone. But it'll be fun to have a little post chat there, and then we'll let you get back to work and saving the world. So great. You're amazing. You're a frontline worker too. You're awesome.
Thanks.
We need you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. So we will all go on there in a couple of minutes. And thank you so much for joining us, Tiffany.
Yeah. Have a great day. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. That was such an enlightening and fabulous conversation with Dr. Tiffany Hunt. Be sure to check her out on Tuned In with Tiffany, and I will leave that link below this video momentarily. And you're more than welcome to invite us over on Instagram live under the Glam Jules page, and we'll have a little post after party. Interesting. Anyway, we'll see you over there. Thanks for joining.